All right. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. I'm learning this laptop does not like the internet to work if I shut it. It takes like another 10 minutes to get everything going again. Not that it matters to y'all, but that's why I'm late and still setting things up. Not that. We wanted to pull this back up from week 4. I think it was question 18. Yes, this is the one I wanted to start with. Okay. All right. So we are starting off week 5, but you will notice that we're not really ready to get into the actual math side of things for the week 5 MDE 54 stuff. So when you're into your assignments, again, today is the first day of week 5, which means we should be in time management and arithmetic with units. But the regular Math 154 class has not gotten into arithmetic with units yet. So we're not going to be getting into that today. It's probably going to be a while before we get to this week 5, honestly. And I did predicate that the very first week of class, if not the first day of class, the week labelings aren't great after a while. Week 1 through 3 was great, 4 was okay, but honestly, there's like 2.5 weeks worth of material from the regular course in this week 4 topic alone, which we just finished 2.2 today. And I know that my class, we lost 1 day due to illness and everything. So that doesn't help either. Technically, we're kind of finishing week 4 based off of that, if you really wanted to get into it. So that's why we're still in week 4. I could certainly get into the time management side of the week 5 assignment at this point if I wanted to, but I want to focus more on math today. I also might do something a little different today, but I don't want to spoil that yet. Let's kind of just do 1 or 2 problems first. I thought maybe I closed it. I must have closed it. All right, 18, here we go. Let's do this and then this. That'd be fine. All right, so this problem, when we were doing the proportions and setting things up, we got to a word problem, and it had fractions in it, which was the main reason I said this one's a little above us at the time. And I don't want to mean above us. It was just we had like 10 minutes to do it, and it was going to take more time to explain. So remember, the idea behind proportions is you first want to write a fraction in words. So first over second, apples over oranges, whatever. And then you just need to have one side of the fraction be exactly that for one scenario, and then the other side of the fraction be apples over oranges for the other scenario. Generally, one of those 4 spots will be a variable. You cross multiply and solve to find the unknown. So let's read this problem since it's a new day. The nutrition information on the cereal box says that 1/3 of a cup serving provides 100 calories and 4 grams of dietary fiber. So no specific cereal, 1/3 of a cup. So when they say 1/3 of a cup, they're talking about in terms of weight, not actual liquid volume. That would be fluid ounces. There is a difference between cups of fluid ounces and cups in weight. So they say 100 calories for the 1/3 of a cup and also 4 grams of dietary fiber. So you scoop out 1/3 of a cup of cereal and you're getting this many calories, this many grams of fiber. So at this rate, and when they use the word rate, that means everything's proportional. That's another clue or another keyword. Find how many calories and grams of fiber are in a 1/2 cup of serving. So this is one of the 2 reasons, or the 2 reasons this problem is interesting is because A, fractions, that makes it a little more of a challenge, and B, it's not 1 proportion, it's 2. Because we're talking about serving size, that's one thing. And then we're talking about calories, that's a second thing. And then we're talking about grams of fiber, that's a third thing. So we can't put 3 different things in a proportion. Proportions are only able to go apples to oranges, or the first thing to the second thing. So we could go potentially between, and I said potentially for a reason, calories and grams maybe. But unfortunately, we don't know how many calories or grams for the second scenario. We only have 100 calories from the first scenario and the 4 grams from the second scenario. So this is like if we had a table of values or a proportion table, that is to say. We got calories, we got grams, and then we got the size. So the first scenario is we have a third of a cup. Hold on for 1 second. More dog fun. Okay, so we have a third of a cup. That was the first scenario. So if you need to label them like scenario A, scenario B. So A, B. So a third of a cup provides 100 calories and 4 grams of protein. It's not protein, it's fiber. And when I wrote grams here, I could have instead of written fiber or grams of fiber. Remember, the words don't matter as long as you can correctly associate what they are. Instead of calories, I could have actually written the more technically correct name, kilocalories, but no one ever says that. Another word for calories would be energy. Calories is a specific unit. Energy is what calories give you. All right, scenario B, we know that it was a half of a cup, but we don't know how many calories. So we could write a C for calories if we wanted to, and we don't know how many grams of fiber, so I could write an F for fiber. So this is me setting up a proportion table. Did I have to do that? No. I still could have done everything using my words, which I will ultimately show you as well. But the point I was trying to make is, you couldn't use just calories and fiber because both of them are unknown in that second scenario. You remember, you need 3 of those numbers to be known when you're setting up your proportion. All right, so if I wanted to draw a box, say this way, and remember, you don't draw it around the labels. You shouldn't have a box going up into your labels like that. That would be bad. So we could go 1/3, and I know this is annoying because it's a fraction, but sometimes life is annoying, over 1/2, and then equal to 100 over C. So again, this is the top left. This is the bottom left, then the 100 and the C are very obviously labeled. So when you cross multiply, CM for cross multiply, this is what you're going to get. You take the 1/3, let me use colors. You'll take the 1/3 times the C, so you get 1/3 times C, and then you take the 1/2 times the 100. So you go equals 1/2 times 100. Well, half of 100 is 50. You can use a calculator. Really, we'll always want to emphasize the fact that you should know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide fractions. We've talked about some of those things already. We didn't really talk about multiplying because it's the simpler case. You're just reducing tops and bottoms. 2 goes into 2 once and into 100 50 times. That's the idea there. There's no LCDs with multiplying. Now on the left side, the 1/3 C doesn't simplify. It's still just 1/3 times C. Now, the main types of proportions we've seen looked more something like, I'm going to scroll down just a little. This is what it typically looks like. You get something like 5x is equal to, I don't know, 100. And then you say, okay, well that's 5 times x, so we divide both sides by 5. And you end up with x equals 20 after that. Because that was 5 times x, we had to divide both sides by 5. That was typically, that's the way we see it 99% of the time, honestly. But that's not what we have here. What we have here is 1/3 of C. This 3 is in a bottom. Numbers in bottom count as being divided. So this is a division of 3, which means we need to multiply both sides by 3. So we take 3 times the left and 3 times the right. So 3 times 1/3 C equals 3 times 50. Those 3's would cancel, and you just get your C on the left side. 3 times 50 is not 50. Sorry, I was saying 50, and it made me write it. It's 150. So it seems like it should be 150 calories. Now, remember, C stands for calories, so that's the unit, 150 calories. You can ask yourself, does this make sense? Well, we went from 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 a cup. Now, you might be thinking, oh, we went from 3 to 2. That means it's smaller, so the calories should be smaller, but no. those 3s and 2s are in the bottom. And as we'll be discovering sooner than later in the quantitative reasoning class, the bigger the number in the bottom, the smaller the answer, because you're dividing by something bigger. The bigger you divide by, the smaller your answer will be. Think about taking the number 100 and dividing it by 2. You'd get 50. Think of instead of dividing it by 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10, a smaller number. We increase the bottom, means it decreases the answer. So that's the opposite of here. We're going from 1/3 to a half. The bottom's getting smaller, which means the answer should get bigger. So yes, this does make sense. Let's see if it's right, because that's the first thing they want, 150 calories. And we got it right. Next, they want the grams of fiber. So we can go back to using this setup. We're no longer using, that's not what I clicked. Erase, please. There we go. So now I want to draw a box. Now that we know this C is 150, I want to draw a box to be able to find the F. Now, I could certainly do this, and I didn't round that number, so honestly, this isn't even bad because this 150 was not rounded at all. It was exact. It would be perfectly fine to do the box that way to make our proportion as 100 over 150 equals 4 over F. However, I want to practice this fraction jazz a little more, and I also want to go along the idea that if we don't have to borrow, we don't borrow. And I don't mean borrowing that's in like for subtraction. I mean borrowing number to number to number to number. So instead, I'm going to draw my proportion box like this, which means I'm ignoring all the center numbers and just using the 1/3, the 1/2, the 4, and the F. So we'll go 1/3 over 1/2, that was the left side, 1/3 over 1/2 equals 4 over F. I'm going to go a little quicker through this one. So cross multiplying, we'll get the 1/3 times the F, and that'll be equal to the 1/2 times the 4. Half of 4 is 2, so 1/3 F is equal to 2. And then we multiply both sides by 2, right? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Well, 2 and 3 don't reduce. This is a case of we got to be careful and pay attention. You know I love to do those. So that 3 is a denominator, is the denominator. So that's why we multiply both sides by 3. So those 3's will cancel, giving us our answer of F is equal to 6. Let's see if it's right. Remember, that would be 6 grams of fiber, and it is. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty, remember that with proportions, the basic idea is if one thing doubles, the other thing doubles. Well, you can't really see that here, but the 100 calories in one scenario went up to 150. That's a 50% increase. We'll get into how that number comes about later, but that's a 50% increase. Well, if the fiber went from 4 to 6, that's also a 50% increase. So those things have both increased by half of what they originally were. That's what a 50% increase means. All right, so we've done all that stuff. I want to say that where we dropped off in question 36 is where we get into material. Well, that's exactly like we were just doing. You'd multiply both sides by 8. I remember we talked about a bunch of those. And then question 37, this is from section 4 of chapter 2. So again, we're not really ready for that. So we will come back to 37. It might be a few days, but here's where I want to change things a little bit today. How many people do we have? 7 participants, including me, which means 6. Okay, that'll work out perfectly. So, yes, okay, just making sure I have some options in a menu you can't see right now. I know it feels like I'm rambling, but I'm looking for things. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to remind you of what the weighted average formula is that I covered earlier today. So let's pull back up my notes, just so I don't have to retype everything. There we go. As a reminder, this is your weighted average formula. This is a formula that, again, pretty much any college class is going to be using to calculate your grade. And if you were in my class earlier today, you already heard me say, you can never, ever, ever ask me to calculate your grade. It is your responsibility as a quantitative reasoning student. And I use the analogy that, you know, teach a person to fish and they eat the rest of their life versus give a person a fish and they eat for a day. And I know I'm saying that backwards, but that's not the point. So if I just calculate your grade for you, you'll never be able to do it. If you do it, then you learn something and you can do it for other class and you don't have to email your history professor and your English professor and all these other people asking for grades. Or, you know, if you don't trust the online number that you see, you can go and put it into your own little Excel spreadsheet, which I kind of demonstrated one that I'm going to be finishing up, and then we'll discuss another time. So remember that the weights are what will bring the average closer or further away to something. The heavier the weight, the more of something there is, then the closer that average would be to that entity, especially if it's like just two things that are very, very, very far off from each other. And just to give a super quick example, let's say we have a store sells tickets for $5 and it sells, what was the other thing I had? It was tickets and not like child tickets and adult tickets. And buzzers for $20. You buy 10 tickets and 5 buzzers. What's the average cost? So again, the average cost here is not just taking 5 plus 20, which is 25, and dividing by 2 because there's 2 different types of things. It's like if you added up every single ticket and every single buzzer that you bought. So if you bought 10 tickets, that means you're doing 5 plus 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 5. You'd be adding that 5 10 times. And then you have your buzzers. So you'd be adding 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20. And then you would divide by the number of things you bought, which would be the 10 plus the 5, which would be 15. That's the long way of doing it, but people never want to break it out that long way. They want to keep it in a simpler setup. So here, the weights, again, in this instance, unlike a grade, are the thing that you actually come in and affect, how many tickets and buzzers you buy. So these are the weights, and then these are actually the data values. And again, I know this is the one type of scenario that doesn't quite make sense in what you call weight in a data, but practice makes perfect. When you're talking about grades, it makes a lot more sense. The percentage that your teacher says something is worth, that's your weight. It's how heavy it is. So your weighted average would be, you take your weight for the tickets, 10, times the price per, which is 5, plus, it's a weird looking plus sign, isn't it? My hand slipped on my tablet. Then plus the 5 buzzers times the $20 per. And then we divide by the sum of the weights. This is, again, the sum of the weights is like adding up all the different things you bought. You bought 10 of the buzzers, sorry, 10 tickets, and you bought 5 of the buzzers. Again, when you go and try and think of a traditional average, it starts making sense that these are the weights, because you'd be buying 15 of these things. You wouldn't be buying $25 of things. You'd be buying way more than that. All right, 10 times 5 is 50. 5 times 20 is going to be 100. 10 plus 5 is 15. So we get 150 divided by 15, should be 10. Now, the weighted average is an average cost, so that's $10 per item. No, we didn't buy any items that were $10. But if you just want to know what an average cost per item was across all the different price things you bought, it means you paid $10 per. Does this make sense as a thing to calculate? In some instances, yes. In some instances, no. Now we know how to calculate it. That's what we're more focused on. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm hoping that we all have space to work in, that we are able to take notes and write things down, because for the first time, I'm going to put the work on y'all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to form two groups of three. I know I like to write things down. Since we have 6 students in here currently, if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't exactly know what's going to happen from here or what you're going to see. Probably just me going back and forth between the groups and kind of monitoring. So if you are watching this in post, you should just be trying to follow along with the timing of this. And I know you can pause things and that's fine, but it is what it is. So I'm going to form two groups of 3. I'm going to give 3 examples, and you are to calculate weighted average. All right, so I'm going to give the examples first before I split you into groups. I'm going to give you some time. I'll peek in on the groups, and if you have any questions, you can ask. And after an amount of time has gone by that I feel is enough, then I will go over the answers. But you'll need to mic up if you can, so that you can talk with each other. If I happen to make a group with 3 people who can't talk, remember you can still type in the chat, do whatever you have to. Hopefully we can just make the best out of this. This is really what the QR class is supposed to go like, but online it's extremely difficult to orchestrate all of this with 25 students at a time. So that's why I haven't really done it and just been doing discussion boards. All right, anyways, rant aside, example 1. Bob's class, and we're going to stick with problems like this because it's super relevant for the most part. All right, Bob's class assigns 40% for homework, 40% for quizzes, and 20% for the final. Bob currently has an average of 92 in homeworks. Again, this is not our class, not all the different distributions, not our specific number. I didn't need to say 92%, an average of 92 in homework, and a 75 for quizzes is his current grade. Example 2. Jane's class assigns 40% for homework, 40% for quizzes, 40% for the final. Jane currently has an average of, sorry, someone's walking up to my door. Distractions always. Jane currently has an average of 98 in the homework, a 95 in the quizzes, earned an 81 final. What is her final grade? Example 3. Alex's class assigns 20% for homework, 20% for quizzes, 20% for each of 3 tests. So first test, second test, third test. Third test is the final. He has earned a 100 on all homeworks. He earned quiz grades of 95, 90, and 80, and has 2 test grades of 85 and 94. What is his current average? So those are our 3 examples. Now, I want to point out, I'm sure you heard that. It's kind of funny because the dog I have that barks all the time, he's actually 90% deaf. He's an old boy. So if he doesn't see the person, all right, you get the point. The other one doesn't really bark at all. Okay, so fun distractions. First example, 3 categories. What is his current grade? And the second example, 3 categories. What is the final grade? Third example, there's 5 different categories because I'm just calling each test a category. So homework, quizzes, test 1, test 2, test 3. Now, some of these things, some of these 3 examples have all of the grades currently. Maybe one of them, maybe 2 of them, maybe all of them. Maybe some of these don't have all of the grades. So remember, you're not going to account for all of them, hint, wink, nudge. Also, in example 3, you will notice that I did not give the quiz average. I gave you the 3 quiz grades. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler on this. You're going to need to average, regular old average, these 3 quiz grades. Then you can start the actual weighted average problem. Okay, so give me a minute. I'm going to start setting you off into your groups. So let's see, breakout rooms. 2 rooms, create. All right, so you should now be each in a room with 2 other people. If that did not happen, let me know because that's what I'm looking at. Open, there we go. I think I had to open first, there we go. Everybody can still hear me, I hope. I'm assuming that's the case. If anyone wants to give me a yes in the chat, that's awesome. All right, so this is breakout room 1. Y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So again, just work on those 3 problems. You can work on it individually, talk to each other, get an answer, confirm it. And like I said, I'll come back and poke my head in and see how you're doing, see if you have any questions, and I'll be back.
Can you bring the problems back up, please?
Oh, you can't see that, so I need to hit share screen for that?
Yes, please.
Interesting. So y'all can see that. I'm curious if my other group can. So that would be a complication. So give me a minute. Let me go to the other one. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interrupting y'all for a second. I know, sorry for the rudeness. Were y'all able to see my screen when I put you in the breakout rooms, or is it now that you can just see it again?
We could just now
I can see it now.
Okay, y'all, so apparently I can only display to 1 breakout room at a time. So if you have a phone, take a picture of this really quickly for me, because I don't want to leave the other group hanging, and I'm going to go tell them the same. I'm learning as we go. Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
And I know some of you might be using your phone for this.
Yep.
I took a picture.
I screenshotted it.
As long as one person has the numbers, you can at least talk them out to the other person, and I'll come back and have it displayed again. So there we go.
How do we get the mic to work? It should put, it's like a little mute button on the side of the
So
screen.
how do you get the mic to work when you have the participant list up? You should be able to just hit mute or unmute over the mic button. There we go. I unmuted.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I'm assuming y'all lost my screen when I went to the other room again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you're gonna need to do real quick is, well, I asked them to take a picture, so I'll leave this up a little longer, but if we do this again, and maybe I won't do this again, I want this to work, I really do. So maybe just take a picture, screenshot, whatever you can. I'll stay here for about 5 minutes, but then I'm gonna go back to the other room. And like I said, you can work on these on your own. You can discuss, I'll get the numbers and I can confirm or deny as you're progressing. And in case anyone needs to unmute, when you're looking at the participant list, to the right of your name will be a little microphone. If there's a red slash through it, just click that and that should activate your mic. I'm actually going, and I can unmute you or you can do it yourself. I don't want to unmute anyone in case they don't want to be unmuted though. If you're muted, please at least type in the chat at some times. All right, thanks.
I'm on it, Mr. Beckner. I think I got it.
All right, thank you, Claire. I'm going to switch to the other group to make sure they've got all of them, and I'm going to do the same thing there.
I think I got it. Cool.
Scared me. And then 3. 20. Oh, that's wrong. Homework. My phone wants to be slow now. Okay.
For the first one, I put his current grade is a C. Is that what you guys got?
I probably did this wrong. My phone is being mad slow, and I don't know why.
So I heard someone say that for the first one, their grade is a C. Give me a number specifically. What grade did you calculate?
72.
Can you tell me the math in the top that you did to get that 72?
I put both 40s, the 20, and the 92. And then I put the 75 under.
Okay, so definitely some things will have to be fixed with that. Remember, our formula is weight times data plus weight times data, and then you keep doing that. So your weights are these three different numbers, but then the data is your actual grades, which were these two. So if I only gave you two of them, you shouldn't actually be using all three of these. One of them isn't going to be used.
So since there's two 40s, I don't have to use another one?
Correct. You don't have to use the 20 because there is no grade for the final exam.
Okay.
And then did you say that you had the 92 and 75 in the bottom?
Yes.
So those are, again, the actual data values. The things that should be in the bottom are the weights. You should be adding the 40 and the 40 instead.
I'm confused.
Okay, I'm back. My internet kept kicking me out.
So you want me to add the 40 and the 40 underneath,
Correct.
but don't put one of the 40s on top.
You may have misunderstood me. We have a grade for the homework and for the quizzes, which were both of the 40% categories. So both of the 40s will go in the top, multiplying their respective grades. It's this 20% that doesn't get used because there was no final test grade given.
Okay.
So the top is like so specifically for the homework, it would be 40% times the 92. That would be the first entry in the top. Then you'd have a plus, and you'll do the same thing for the quizzes. You already described the bottom, so I'm hoping you'll be okay from there. I'll pop back in a minute.
For my one teacher. Hi. Ah, Mr. Beckner.
Yes.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Working on this. Do we convert the percents to decimals?
That is up to you as long as you're consistent. If you're going to do it in the top values of that formula, you have to do it in the bottom as well. So you can use the 40s. I think most people prefer to keep them as whole numbers.
Okay. I just wanted to check
Agreed.
for sure before I did anything.
Have y'all gotten an answer for example 1 yet by chance? I know it's early.
Nope.
Not yet.
Still plugging it in.
Okay, cool.
I'm at work, by the way, so if you hear some weird noises in the back, it's because I work at a dentist office.
Hey, as long as nobody's screaming, right?
Right.
Screaming.
Believe me, I know about all the weird noises. I know y'all put up with a lot from me. So let me ask y'all a quick question. Do you use this 20% in that formula for example 1 at all, yes or no?
No.
Because there is no final exam grade given. That is good. Good, good, good. I just wanted to make sure we were on that same page.
Yes.
So it's the 40s and the 92s and 75s. Which numbers are going to be going in the bottom of the formula? Is it the 40 plus the 40 or the 92 and the 75? Again, the bottom.
The 40 plus the 40.
Good, good, good. All right.
I'm going to do it for you, okay? And then this guy, our next taker, he just changed that their insurance doesn't cover what you're willing to pay out of pocket, okay? So it's whatever reason you had to go over your insurance to be able to cover. I'm not going to do it up to you ahead of time.
Bless you.
So sorry.
All right, as soon as she's done with her other patient, she'll be in to help you out, okay? Just have an in and out for her.
Okay.
Enjoy our tunes.
All right. Anybody think they got an answer to example 1?
I got 83.
Did you get it exactly 83?
Well, 83.5.
Yes. So 83.5 is the answer to that one. So since y'all know that for a fact, at least one person does, I would like y'all to discuss a little while I go to the other group and see if they've got it. And when I come back, I'll show the work for it.
All right.
Okay.
20%. So, is it 20?
I can do it.
0.2 times 100. And then.
For
3
example 2, is the answer 93.4?
Yes, it is.
Alrighty.
Do y'all have an
that
answer
one.
for example?
93.4.
I heard 83.4. Are we
93.
For the first one,
Yes.
I got 50. I got 66.8.
So I heard 93.4 for example 2, and that was correct. That was good.
I don't know if I did the steps right though. I just multiplied the 40% into the 98, and then did the same for the quizzes, and then add it together. Is that the proper way to do it?
Yeah, so what you just described for the top was to take the 40% times the 98 plus the 40% times the 95 plus the 20% times the 81. Now that's just the top part though. There is still a bottom.
Okay.
Now, if you did your percents as decimals, you got lucky
Yeah,
because
that's what I did.
the bottom ends up being 1, which means that you do get the exact answer.
Mm-hmm.
But it means that you would have done something wrong in example 1. So the bottom, you're also supposed to add up the weights, all the weights that you used.
Okay.
So the one thing you were technically missing was you didn't have your 0.4 plus 0.4 plus 0.2. I'm sorry, that was a 20%. But you were very lucky, and that added up to 1, so it didn't even have an effect. So
Okay.
going back to example 1, I heard someone say something in the 60s. If the only grades you have are 92 and 75, how could you have an average lower than either of those? Would that make sense?
I did that wrong.
So
Guess not.
I gave example 2 away and how it's set up. Example 1 is very similar, except you don't have the final grade, which means you don't include that category. So this bit would be missing, and this bit would be missing. That's all you would be doing. So I will give you a hint. The answer is in the low to mid 80s for example 1. I'm gonna go back and see how the other group's doing. Y'all are doing. Oh, go ahead. Sure.
I think I finally got it because at first I was not understanding what you said at all. But for the last answer, is it 88.3?
The very last one.
Yes.
That's the quiz average. Are you talking about just averaging these 3 things right here?
I did the 20 times the 95, the 20 times the 90, the 20 times the 80. And then I put the weight at the bottom, like you said.
So the 95, 90, and 80 were all quiz grades. Quiz grades are all lumped into this category. So you're not actually supposed to be using the homework percent for that and the test percents for that. The first thing you do is, I didn't give you a quiz average. I gave you the homework average, I gave you the test averages, but you need to take the 95 plus the 90 plus the 80 and divide it by 3. That gives you your quiz average. And now it's basically like example 2 ready to set up. But example 3, I gave that extra step, which I just showed there.
Okay, for the first one, is it 83.5?
It is 83.5.
Yes, girl.
So now that y'all got it right, y'all can discuss that. I'll pop back in a few minutes. Doing good.
Okay.
Breakout rooms. Join. Yes. I'll display my screen in a minute. I gotta delete a whole bunch of stuff. All right. Share screen. There we go. All right, so we know for example 1 that the weighted average was that 40% times the 92 plus your 40% times your 75, that was your quizzes. And then we don't use this 20% because there was no final exam grade given. We haven't taken it yet. And then we just divide by the sum of the weights, which was 40% plus 40%. And after you do all that math, what did we say we ended up with again?
83.5.
Correct. Good. Have y'all gotten an answer for example 2 yet?
Yes.
And that is?
93.4.
Yeah.
93.4 is excellent. Yes. Have y'all had a chance to discuss it, it sounds like?
Little
No.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and talk about why it is. So it's the same weights, 40, 40, 20, different grades, and the final's actually been taken. So we do our 40% for our homework times, what do we earn in the homework? A 98. Y'all help me set up the next part. What am I gonna write? And I'm using percents instead of decimals.
plus 40%
40%, that was the quiz weight.
And
times
then 20.
95.
Oh, yeah.
The 95 for the actual grade, good.
Plus,
And then plus
and then times 81.
the 20% for the final times the 81 we earned. And then that's all over. And what goes in the bottom?
40 plus 40 plus 20.
Yep. The sum of the weights. I keep writing a 4 there instead of a 2.
Mood.
And then when you do all that math, you should end up getting your 93.4. Nice, happy A. Cool. How far have y'all made it in example 3? Has anyone got an answer?
I started writing it down, and then I got to the quiz grades, and now I have to figure that out.
Cool. Okay, and that's about what I figured. I didn't want to move too fast. So y'all know that the first thing you got to do before anything else is you've got to average those, which means you add those 3 things up, divide by 3, and that will give you your quiz average, which then gets used in this 20% category. So you don't do 3 20%ers on this. You got to add those 3. So 95 plus 90 plus 80 divide by 3. And that'll give you your actual quiz average to use here. I will give you a hint on the final answer. And because the quiz average, there's a decimal, depending on how you round that, you may be off by like 0.1 or something for the very final grade. It's in the ballpark of 92. So I'm not saying it is 92, I'm saying it's in the ballpark of 92. So if you get something around 92 for example 3, you're probably right. All right. I'll be back. I didn't just rejoin the same room, right?
Hello.
You're in the other one, I think.
Okay, good. Just making sure because I did something weird and I wasn't paying attention to the number. All right, so I know we got our 83 from the first one. In case we didn't show the work, here it is. So we did weight times grade plus weight times grade divided by sum of the weights, remembering that we didn't use the final percentage at all because there was no final grade, no final exam grade. And when you crunch all those in a calculator, and I can't hover over your shoulder to make sure you're typing things in right, you will have to make sure you can do it yourself. But you should get your 83.5. We know we said the answer to 2 was 93.4. let's show how we did that together. So we still have our 40% for the homework, same exact weights, but now we have a final grade and different grades as well, times the homework grade, which is a 98. So that's the idea. Here's the homework one, 40% of 98. I would like y'all to help me. What goes next? So we're going to do the quizzes now.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, what happened?
Wait, Mr. Beckner, are you supposed to be in our group?
Yes. You can see it now, right?
Oh, we've done this already. Yeah, I think you're in the wrong group.
Oh, okay. It did put me in the I knew it. I knew it. I asked. I'll be back. All right. Sorry about that. So I got my rooms mixed up. So doing the weighted average formula, similar to the first one. So we had our 40% of the 92, 40% of the 75, homeworks, quizzes, and then sum the weights. Doing the same thing here now, but now we have all three categories opened up. So for the homework, we got 40% of the homework grade, which was a 98. Then for the quizzes, we got a 40% of the 95. And then for the final, we got 20% of the 81. And then you divide by the weights again, which are not the grades you earn. It's the percentages your teacher tells you what everything is worth. Multiply, add, divide, and you end up getting that number we already knew, the 93.4. All right. And we're at the point where I think I need to end the breakout room stuff because the last one takes a little longer and we only have 10 minutes. So y'all get to hear that I'm ending the breakout room. So hopefully this goes right.
For the last one, I got 92.6. Is that right or is it wrong?
92.6 is close. You're off by about roughly. You're in the ballpark, so I can't tell you exactly what you did wrong.
Okay.
You're in the ballpark. We're about to cover it, so you will see. All right. Close all rooms. So that takes a minute. So, all right, we'll be back in a minute into the regular room, and we'll finish example 3. All right, we're all back in the same place now. Why it keeps saying I'm muted, but no, I'm not muted. Don't know why you're telling me that. So that was a fun experiment. I might do that again now that I have a little experience. I'd say the one challenge is the fact that it doesn't keep my screen up when I go between groups. So I've got to think about that moving forward. But y'all did as good as I could have hoped for given this brand new scenario, and you weren't expecting it, I'm sure. It's like, hey, I can usually just listen to him. Now I gotta actually participate. What's he doing? All right, so I already covered both first 2 examples in the groups individually. This third one with the only like 8 minutes left, we're just gonna go over together. So I did mention ahead of time that you needed to find the average of those. So the quiz average, this is not a weighted average. This is just add them up and divide by the number of things. And if you add 95 and 90 and 80 and then divide by 3, you get 88.5. .3333333 da 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 da. So we can just round it to 88.3 for all intents and purposes. So the actual weighted average the student has, we'll do homeworks, then quizzes, test 1, test 2. So for the homeworks, that's 20%, that's the weight, times what did we earn? We earned 100 on all homeworks, which means his average is 100. I hope that part was clear. So that was the homework. Then for the quizzes, they count as 20%, and the quiz average we just determined was 88.3. Then we're going to add, and then we're going to do test 1. So 20% for each of 3 tests. So that's 3 sets of 20s. It's 20% for test 1, 20% for test 2, 20% for test 3. But we only have grades for test 1 and 2, so you're only going to see the first 2 tests accounted for. So 20% for test 1, and he earned an 85, plus the 20% for test 2, of which he earned a 94. So I'm going to label these. This was your homework. This was your quiz. This was test 1. This is test 2. And then divide by the weights we used, which are the 4 of the 5 20s. So 20% plus 20% plus 20% plus 20%. I will show the actual arithmetic this time. After I get a, I want my good calculator, like my TI-83. All right, so the 20% times 100, that's 20 times 100, which is going to be 2,000. This, there we go. So our weighted average. And I really didn't need to show that one, did I? And then 20% times the 88.3, this is where you'll be a little more inclined for it, 88.3. And that's going to be 1766 plus 20% of 85, so 20 times 85, which is the 1700, plus 20 times 94, which is 1880, all divided by 4 20s makes 80. If we add up those numbers, the 2,000 plus the 1766 plus 1700 plus 1880, sounds like we're going through history dates, we get 7346. And when we divide that by 80, we get 91.8. And that is in the ballpark of 92 that I believe I suggested. And you know, what maybe your teacher rounds up to a 92, maybe they keep it a 91. Does it actually affect your grade? No, it's an A. But if it was an 89.8, you'd be going, oh, please, Mr. Beckner, give me that point too. No doubt, right? And that's if you knew the grade, which you can calculate on your own, right? Because you'll get to see all your grades. You just got to do the number crunching, and all we're doing right here is number crunching. But we'll have like 30 homeworks and 10 Excel assignments, so it would be really nice for us to have an Excel file to put those grades in manually, to just have it keep updating the average for us all semester, so we don't have to put these numbers in a calculator over and over all semester. And like I said, don't ask me your grade, because I won't tell you. I have taught you to fish. The one last thing I want to show, since we have time, this last problem in particular, with the numbers all over the place, you saw me step by step do everything in the calculator. I can actually do this all at once and get the same answer. Let's see if I can do that. Now, I have discussed in my regular MTE class, MTH class, if you have me, that when you have all sorts of operations in fractions, it's like there's a parentheses around the top and the bottom. Now, if you want to punch all this in a calculator all at once, you have to use those parentheses, otherwise it will be wrong. So parentheses, now this is me typing the top, 20 times 100, this will be the last thing we do, if I didn't say that, plus 20 times the 88.3, plus 20 times the 85 plus 20 times the 94. Now that I'm done with the top, I close the parentheses. Division is the fraction bar. And then I'll open a parentheses for the bottom. And I know the 20s are just going to add to 80, but let me be meticulous and show everything as it is originally. So if I didn't typo something anywhere, I get the same answer, 91.8 and some change. So, do I care which way you type things in a calculator? You know the answer to this is no. I care that you have a way that you can consistently do it accurately. If you're better at this all at once kind of thing, then learn to do it that way and be consistently doing it that way. If you're better at, single operations and then bringing everything together in the end, if you can get it right that way, then do it that way. You've got to learn to be comfortable doing something your own way as long as it works. Practice this stuff. Remember, 12 hours per week is how much time you should be dedicating to math between Math 154 and MDE 54. It doesn't necessarily mean 6 hours in one and 6 hours in the other, because this is just kind of a, it's called a co-rec course, but it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pairing. It's supplemental. There we go. It's supplemental. So the 6 hours of, quote, homework for this class you could be using for your Math 154 class. All right. So that's where we're going to end it today. Next class, we might be picking back up in my math lab homework stuff. We might be doing something a little more like this. We will see where I end up in the actual Math 154 class, because I base this class completely off of that. So I hope this was a little fun today. At least you didn't have to listen to me ramble the whole time. I hope it wasn't too annoying. Like I said, I'd like to do this again. Maybe I can find a way to let y'all know ahead of time when this is going to happen, so you can make sure you're in a good space. I don't know. But thank you for making the best of this as always. Keep working hard. Keep doing your best. Email me if you have any questions. And take care, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.